Welcome back to Mystara, and get ready to get dangerous, because today's topic, as chosen by you, is the various types of Magitech in Mystara. Okay, it's only dangerous in certain situations. Alright, for the most part, Magitech is largely well-built and completely safe, even for the gnomes of Serene. But, be honest, it's only really dangerous if you start pushing random buttons on the various types that you found anywhere. Except for the dwarves, because everything they build is Oshik spec, but I digress. So let's get started merging magic and technology. I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to build some magic items. First, I gotta define Magitech before we can even talk about it. Anytime you use magic to recreate a somewhat modern technological device, that's what we're talking about. A magic sword that's just a little bit sharper doesn't count. Using a fire elemental to power a steam locomotive, that's Magitech. It can be anything from the fantastic, like Serene's use of magically powered fighter craft and Alphacia skyships, down to the mundane with Glantry with its magical garbage disposables and boat engines. Mystara's Magitech is restricted only to certain regions. You're not going to find it outside of Serene, Glantry, Alphacia, or Rockholm. Those are the nations that manufacture Magitech, and anything outside of them is going to treat Magitech as a luxury item or just a curiosity. The first instance of Magitech in Mystara, of course, is Blackmoor, so we're going to go all the way back before the Great Rain of Fire. Not much is known about the Blackmoor era Magitech, except that it dwarfed the levels of what the known world currently has. Blackmoor developed flight, robots, all sorts of mechanical conveniences, and possibly even spaceflight. A game set in peak Blackmoor is going to resemble something more like Shadowrun or Star Frontiers than D&D. Of course, all that was lost when it blew itself off the map, and very little is left as an example of what they were capable of. The few items we do have are all dangerously powerful, and examples of items from the City of God modules were revealed to be game breakers. The only handheld item from Blackmoor that I could find was a lightning wand, quote-unquote, that Prince Jagger von Drachenfels carries with him. It's a wand the same way that Fat Boy was an explosive. Most wands of lightning don't do anywhere near 20 d6 points of damage. The items from the City of Gods resembled everyday items in function, but were much more compact and worked far better than their fantasy counterpart. Blackmoor shields protected as well as plate mail, despite being the size of jewelry. Think like Dune shields, the cool David Lynch 1984 Dune shields, not the lame, barely seen TV movie Dune shields, of course. Their most basic swords were the equivalent of powerful enchanted blades in the known world. Everything Blackmoor had was, in a word, better, lighter, more powerful, and deadlier. Blackmoor enchanted these items further with magic, and the magical enhancements they made caused the items to rival the immortals in what they could do, and it enhanced their power so much that it became too powerful, resulting in the explosion that vaporized all but a handful of these items. The items that did survive proved to be quite dangerous, resulting in explosions that leveled entire regions like the Broken Lands. Blackmoor did lead directly to the creation of Serene, as the gnomes figured out how to turn a Blackmoor-era engine into the propulsion unit that keeps the city aloft. The gnomes managed not to blow themselves up, which shows off their mechanical aptitude. They might not know everything about the magic that keeps their city aloft, but they know enough about it to keep it from going kaboom. The gnomes create some sort of the most fantastical Magitech creations, especially their fighter craft that they use for transportation and defense. The gnomes have created weapons to defend their city against dragons or others that might mean it harm. Serene Magitech comes mostly in the form of tourist attractions like sky cars that dot their city and gives tourists a view of Serene from above. The other use, of course, is the defense and resupply of the city, which fortunately for the gnomes, they get to focus more on resupply. The only real threat to the city is flying monsters, and even a single dragon isn't much of a threat to Serene. Magitech is actually heavily vetted in Serene, so much so they have a museum devoted to failed experiments. Rockholm is the opposite of Serene when it comes to Magitech. The dwarves themselves are inherently anti-magical. They have divine magic in spades, but arcane magic is something they are incapable of learning themselves. What they can do, however, is forge magical metals and utilize those to create all sorts of industrial-grade Magitech. That alone separates the dwarves from the other magical nations. The dwarves would never create a magical roller coaster when they can instead create a magical rock drill or a train to haul ore. Dwarves are highly practical, this shows in their creation. They don't do whistles and bells. Their creations are completely functional and quite reliable. Dwarven Magitech is going to resemble construction equipment and artillery. You won't see much of it because Rockholm is so isolationist. Nobody's going to be going down into the mines to see the giant ore separators and the rock drills they've created. On the field of battle, their weapons are rapid-firing and devastating, if not a bit static. The dwarves aren't in a hurry to attack anyone, but they are more than patient to blow anyone who tries to attack them into tiny bits. Dwarven Magitech is probably the safest of all the forms. It's also the most boring. Alphacia builds skyships, and Glantry has magical speedboats. Rockholm has cranes and backhoes. Not all Magitech has to wow you, though. In Glantry, the closest thing you're going to get to Magitech is their use of magical items as appliances. They've managed to make refrigerators, garbage disposals, and washing machines from various reapplied magic items. This greatly increases the quality of life in most parts of Glantry, so much so that they've turned selling these items into an industry. Their products would greatly improve the technology of their neighbors, but Glantry doesn't produce enough of them to be anything but luxuries, and most of their neighbors hate Glantry with a passion. So while Albon and Berghoven might enjoy continual light lamps in their neighborhoods, they aren't sharing that with Darrican or Karamikos anytime soon. Glantry and Magitech is largely magical creations or other items used creatively for another purpose. Things like black pudding garbage disposals or ice elemental freezers. They do make magic items specifically to recreate these effects safely, but these items are much more expensive and harder to make. Since that cuts down on the profit margin, the cheaper magic items have to suffice for most people. Glantrian items tend to be aesthetically pleasing since they are sold in stores by the various Glantrian manufacturers. Then you get to Alphatian Magitech, where it's go big or go home. Their Magitech tends to be massive in scope. Creating a magic drill isn't worth their time. An enchanted blender may be for the mundanes with a little bit of coin. Alphatia instead decided to make the majority of their own navy airborne. They create submarines to go into their entirely undersea kingdom. One of the nations is a mile above ground, just floating in the air, and that requires aerial vehicles, the likes of which Serain could only dream of producing. Alphatia's biggest issues with their Magitech is their wizards have a large problem with one-upsmanship. If you build a flying rowboat, the next wizard's going to try to build a flying galleon. One of the adventures in Dawn of Empire specifically states they have a flying aircraft carrier. So the sky is literally the limit with Alphatia. Alfheim Magitech is easily the most impressive in scale. Serain's a giant flying city, but the gnomes just modified existing Blackmoor tech. The dwarves might build a magical digging machine to get through a mountain, while the Alphatians would instead turn the mountain into an airship and just fly it out of the way. Alphatians turn Magitech into mass transit. They prefer to use it to create vehicles rather than tools, which would greatly help the Empire if the wizards didn't hoard their creations for their own use. Magitech is going to be largely in the background, with the possible exception of Serain. Unless you give the party an airship or they create one themselves, the ships will be the things the characters see on occasion. Dwarven Magitech is deep underground. It's impressive, but it's mostly just used for industrial uses. The party isn't going to be able to sell a dwarven ore sifter easily, no matter how much it's actually worth. Magitech gives Mystara a flavor for the more fantastical areas, but it doesn't interfere too much with the rest of the world. Of course, if you want to go full-on silly, grab the Book of Wondrous Inventions and unleash the madness contained within those pages. And everybody's been asking me about the book. There's not really any update. I'm in hurry up and wait mode. The book will be coming out. They said 4 to 6 weeks. That was a week ago, so hopefully 3 more weeks. I'm posting up every day a different archetype. I think there's 32 archetypes, and there's 30 days I got left. Hopefully the book will go into the 4 weeks so I don't run out of archetypes and just have to start finding new things to show you. And then I've got to do a video showing everything in the book and how awesome it is. And then you've got to go share it everywhere, and we can try to get the attention of the people in charge of WotC to say, hey, you know what? We're not doing anything with this setting, and then, hey, there's this book that's already written, so might as well let that one go out so we can start making money off of it immediately, because we're taking 50% of whatever we sell it for anyways. So there's no reason not to put this book out. But that's for 3 weeks from here, hopefully. So you've been warned. But until next time, pull the lever, Kronk.